Hello everybody, and welcome back to the 8-Bit Game Corner. The last time you saw me here was around about December of last year, and when I was here I talked about the Atari 2600. But for today we're going to be jumping forwards in time a bit, all the way to the mid-1980s, 1985 to be specific. Why? Because that's when Nintendo's very first home console came out, the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES for short, was Nintendo's first home console outside of Japan. And I specify outside of Japan because technically it's just a repackaged Famicom, which was Nintendo's actual first home console, but that only came out in Japan in 1983. And essentially they're just the same system. Even though this was Nintendo's first home console, this wasn't actually their first ROM into the video game market. Back in the dark ages, the 1970s, Nintendo actually made a couple of series of Pong consoles. And what's a Pong console? It plays Pong, that's all it does. It's a system exclusively for playing Pong. They released one called the TV Color Game 6. Fun name, right? Yeah. That really screams entertainment. Anyways, it just included 6 different versions of Pong. So I wouldn't really count that as a home console. It's just one game on one system that's hardwired into it. Later on, they even released a couple of sequels that had detachable controllers and full color and other little game modes and things. Anyway, we're getting off track. Back to the NES. 2 versions of the NES were released in its lifespan. The first being the original Model 1, which resembled a VCR, and the second Model 2 being dubbed the Top Loader, which just put cartridges straight in the top, kind of like a Super Nintendo. Despite that amazing range of options, I won't be using either of those systems. Why? Because I don't have either of those systems. How am I going to play NES games without an NES, you ask? Well, I've got just the solution. Let me just remind you of something I said at the end of the last episode.
Also my Nintendo, a fully functional NES within the bowels of an old facet calculator. They can play Atari games with a special adapter that can be purchased. But when the heck am I ever going to talk about this thing?
Well, as sure as I was that I was never going to talk about the Nintendo, here it is. Alright, enough of me talking about the hardware, let's get to talking about the games. Well, here it is. The only NES game I own. Yeah. I own one NES game. Just one. That's it. And it's the Super Mario and Duck Hunt combo cartridge. Luckily, I've committed piracy. So, thanks to the help of my NES Classic Edition, I can play any NES game I would ever want to, the way that they were meant to be able to be played on the original consoles. Well, you know how this goes. Here's all the games that I think perfectly represent what the NES is all about. Oh, and just like the Atari, some of these games are awesome games, and some of them are pieces of absolute garbage, but that's just how it is with any system. Anyway, let's just get to the games, shall we?
Super Mario Bros. First up is the original Super Mario Bros., a true classic. At this point, it's almost impossible not to know who Mario is, even if you're not a gamer. The whole franchise is that popular. We have this game to thank for it. In fact, this is still one of the best-selling games of all time, having pushed an impressive 40.24 million copies in its production run. The gameplay is pretty simple. You run across the stage heading towards the right of the screen and jump on enemies to defeat them. Your goal is also pretty basic. Rescue Princess Toadstool, or Peach as she's known nowadays, from the evil Lord of the Koopas, Bowser. This game proves that something doesn't have to be complicated to be fun, and more importantly, to stand the test of time. Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt is a special type of game that we in the biz refer to as a light gun game, which means I've got to break out this bad boy to play it. Which also means that I can't use my NES Classic to play it, since that can only hook up to a modern HD TV, which works differently to a CRT tube TV, which is what this thing was designed for. But that's fine because
I have this!
Light gun games like Duck Hunt are really neat because thanks to the light gun, you've actually gotta aim at the screen and shoot to land your hit. Problem is, sometimes it doesn't work very well. And that's no fault of the game, it's actually due to the light gun.
You betrayed me!
Yeah, due to the tech being old, a lot of them fail to work well or even at all nowadays. It's a shame, really. If you can get your hands on a working light gun and a tube TV, give Duck Hunt a try, you won't regret it. Tetris. I can easily say that Tetris is one of my favorite games of all time.
Hey! No, you can't talk about that yet. Your favorite games episode hasn't aired yet. So you're telling me I can't even talk about a game being my favorite just because the episode detailing my top picks hasn't aired yet? Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. That doesn't make any sense. Hey man, if you want to talk to the studio, that's your business. I'm just going to keep doing my job as the cameraman, and I suggest you keep doing yours by following the script. You do that.
Anyways, Tetris is a fantastic puzzle game, which also happens to be a genre of game that I really enjoy. Your goal in Tetris is to line up the various falling tetraminos and eliminate as many lines of blocks as possible without letting them all stack up to the top. The NES version is great. It's nice and colorful and has pretty good Russian music, and is pretty bare bones, which is exactly how I like my Tetris, without any stupid frills on it. Although I do have to say that my preferred version of the game is in fact the Game Boy version. If you're looking for a good pick-up-and-play puzzle game, you can't go wrong with Tetris. The Terminator. This is an awful case of great movie, bad game. This very well might be one of the worst NES games ever made, and it comes from one of the greatest sci-fi action movies of all time. The fact that Terminator got such a terrible game adaptation could very well be one of the worst crimes that the entire human race has ever committed. There are so many things wrong with this piece of garbage, I don't even know where to start. First of all, why am I playing as Kyle Reese? That's lame. At least let me play as Sarah or the actual Terminator or something. Reese isn't even the main character. Second of all, this game looks awful. And that's me being kind. It just doesn't look good. There's zero appeal to even looking at the screen while playing. Why the hell do I have to crouch to shoot my gun? Landing a jump at this game is like an art form. Like painting or driving a Ford Model T. God! Steer clear of this game if you can. It's not worth playing. Not even a little. Back to the Future. How is it even possible that another one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time got such a bad game? You play as Marty McFly, I think? Really, honestly, looking at this thing, I can't tell. And you go up and down a street collecting clocks. Like, what? When the heck did any of this happen in the movie? Did the people who developed this game even watch the movie? Oh my god, my ears! That's stupid music over and over and over. It starts on the title screen and it just keeps going until you either beat the game or turn it off, which is the logical thing to do. The worst part is that the music isn't even from the movie. Where did they get this? Also, why does literally everything on this endless street want to murder Marty? What did he do? This game is a waste of your time and money. Don't even bother. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Just in case you still had any faith in the NES, here comes Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde ready to beat what little is left of it right out of you. Well, here goes nothing. You start off playing as Dr. Jekyll and look at this. What's going on here? Why does everything in this town want to kill me? It's like Back to the Future all over again. I'm trying to use the cane to defend myself and I can't do anything. It's completely useless. Succeeding a no-hit run at this game, no. This level would be like winning a foot race with no legs and 30-pound weights tied to each of your arms while all the other racers are Usain Bolts who start at the halfway point and are hopped up on steroids. But wait, there's at least one neat-ish thing about this game, if you can even call it one. When you die as Jekyll, you get to return as Hyde, and I guess that's cool. But that's when you'd think things would get better, right? Wrong. It still sucks. When playing as Hyde, you're not really any more powerful than Jekyll was. And you can die in two different ways as Hyde. Either by losing all of your health, or getting as far as Jekyll did. That doesn't even make any sense. And if it's the latter, then BAM! Lightning just strikes you into the ground for no apparent reason. Honestly, I don't even think my words can even remotely convey how unbelievably horrible this game is. I said that making Terminator have such a bad game was humanity's worst crime, but no. Letting something like this come into existence was. It's so bad, I'm considering even just throwing it out the door like I did to Star Master. Actually, I don't even think Star Master deserved it. Rest assured, a worse fate is now reserved for this sorry excuse for a video game. Castlevania. Ah, finally! Something that isn't a total piece of garbage. In fact, this is one of my the best games on the NES. Anyway, this game is awesome. Everything about it is awesome. The music is awesome, the graphics are awesome, the story is awesome, the gameplay is awesome. I have zero complaints about this game. But is the game hard? This might be one of the hardest platformers in the entire world of video games, but I don't even mind it all that much, even though it can be a bit unfair at times. No, this game is completely unfair at times, not even just a bit. It's completely garbagely unfair at some points. But it doesn't even really bug me all that much. Because with this game, it's the challenge that keeps you coming back. It feels amazingly satisfying when you actually make progress. You play as Simon Belmont, the latest in a long line of vampire killers. Dracula has made his return, and you've got to travel to his castle in Transylvania and destroy him. Simon's only aid on his quest is his trusty whip, for which you can get a 2-stage upgrade. It first increases the damage that it outputs, and then the length that it can reach. There's also small power-ups you can pick up along the way, including a small axe that flies in an arc, holy water, and a time stopper. Castlevania was released by Konami in 1987, and it proves the worth of the entire platformer genre. I can't recommend it enough. Don't listen to me talking about it, just go play it. River City Ransom. River City Ransom might look a bit cartoony at first, but don't let it fool you. This is a fantastic beat-em-up with great humor and an interesting open world to explore. The story is as follows. Your girlfriends have been kidnapped, and you've got to go get them back, no matter what. If a second player joins in, that's where the fun begins. Player 1 controls Alex while player 2 is Barf. Just ignore the weird name. This game is a blast. It's simple, intuitive, and fun. What more could you ask for? The game has had quite a few sequels over the years, the most recent of which came out just last year, and it's called River City Girls. River City Girls, the roles have been reversed. Your boyfriends have been kidnapped, and now you've got to go rescue them. I've yet to play it, but from what I know about it and have seen of the game, it looks great. I also really love the 16-bit anime art style they went with for that sequel. Anyway, if you're looking for a great beat-em-up on the good old NES, you can't go wrong with River City Ransom. It's a great choice. Just go pick it up. Tecmo NBA Basketball. This game is criminally underrated. I think this is one of the best sports games on the NES. Way better than the stupid Tecmo Bowl that everybody else seems to like for some reason. It's simple and fun. The graphics look alright, they're a bit lackluster in areas, but that's alright, and it's chaotic just like any other basketball game. Why do I like it so much? Really, I'm not too sure, but I can honestly say that I've enjoyed playing in this game every single time that I have. The multiplayer is great too. I've had some great times playing it with my cousin. I love this game despite the fact that I don't usually go for sports games, so even if you're like me and don't really care for sports games, I recommend trying this game out anyway. It really is that good. Ducktales, woohoo! Leave it to Disney to get one of the only good licensed games on this system. Ducktales is a fantastic platforming game. One of the best. It's very hard though, I won't sugarcoat that for you. It's not easy. Not by any stretch of the word. But just like Castlevania, success is rewarding. One thing that makes this game so great is the graphics and sound. The game is filled to the brim with personality. All the characters look exactly like little tiny 8-bit versions of themselves. The music, oh, and the music! It's glorious! Every single chiptune composition from the title screen all the way to the highly memed and fantastic moon theme. All of it is great. Every bit of this game is perfect. I can't think of a single negative trait this game even has. Oh, and I can't forget about the story of the game. You play as Scrooge McDuck, traveling around the world trying to collect more treasure than your rival, Flintheart Glumgold, in the quest to become the world's richest duck. Along the way, you'll meet up with various other different characters from the show, such as Scrooge's nephews Huey, Louie, and Dewey. Overall, DuckTales is a rare example of a fantastic show or movie and getting an equally fantastic video game. Please play this game if you haven't already. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, or just Punch-Out as some of the later releases call it, is really just the only good boxing game ever made, excluding all of its sequels, of course. This game is just super tight, fast-paced fighting action. It's great! There's not too much I can say about Punch-Out. It's a really simple game. It starts out really easy when you first fight Glass Joe, but it quickly gets a lot more difficult as you progress through it. The coolest part is, by far, that the final boss is Mike Tyson himself, and he's real tough. Oh, and Mario's the referee too, so that's neat, I guess. I don't really think the graphics have aged all too well, to be honest. They look a little plain, and the color palette is rather eh. But minor gripes like that don't keep this from being an awesome game. Go out and play it if you haven't already. The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda was pretty much the first truly open-world adventure game, at least since Adventure on the Atari, which we talked about in the last episode. This really is an open world. When you boot up the game, you are given zero instructions of what to do or where to go. The first thing you'll probably want to do instinctively is head into this cave.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Why can't he come with me? Your goal in this game is to save Princess Zelda and the Kingdom of Hyrule from the evil Lord Ganon. To do that, you've got to assemble all the pieces of an ancient weapon, the Triforce. Zelda divided her half into a bunch of pieces to stop Ganon from getting them as easily, since he already has one half of it. Nowadays, the Zelda series reverts to the Triforce as having three main pieces, the Triforce of Wisdom, Courage, and Power. But back then, when this game came out, there were only two. I totally respect what this game was trying to do. I love the Zelda series, I really do. But there's just some things that this game fails to do well. Some of the puzzles feel more like cryptic guessing games than puzzles. Oh yeah, that makes sense, just let me go put a bomb on this random part of the wall that looks identical to the entirety of the rest of the wall. Oh, better yet, let me just throw some fire into this random bush in the middle of a forest, or push this random rock to the left at sundown. These aren't puzzles, these are frustration at its finest. This is a good game, don't get me wrong, but every time I play this, it only results in me being annoyed and me saving and then turning it off. If you don't mind how stupidly cryptic this game can be, and maybe if you have a walkthrough or a strategy guide handy, then sure, I recommend you pick up this game and play through it. Battletoes. Now here's another difficult game, but not because of crippling vagueness, just because of actual difficulty. First thing you'll probably notice about this game is how amazing it looks. This doesn't even look like an NES game. This looks like it could have been on the Super Nintendo. It's stunning. The fact that they were able to do something like this on the NES is not only impressive, but it's mind-boggling. Why didn't other things on the NES look this visually appealing? This is another game that I don't really have much to say about. It's beautiful, extremely hard, and it stars some angry frog people. What more could you want? The fact that I've sunk so many hours into trying to get at least some enjoyment from playing this game is embarrassing to say the least. This is once again an abysmal game based off of a great movie. I don't even fully understand what you're supposed to be doing throughout the game, but it really doesn't matter because the overall experience is bad. There's nothing even remotely nice in this waste of plastic and circuitry. And it's like it asks Back to the Future for soundtrack advice. The same music plays in the background for the entire game. If you want an actually good Ghostbusters game, because it really is a great movie and I wouldn't blame you for wanting a great video game of it, I recommend the Genesis version because it's legitimately good. Just stay away from this piece of trash from the past. Don't waste your money on it. Rad Racer. I thought it'd be nice to end on a pleasant note, and with a genre that we haven't touched upon yet. It's an arcade-style racing game. It's kind of similar to Outrun if you've ever played it by Sega, the arcade game, and I think it came to the Sega Genesis later on. You should know what to expect. I mean, arcade racers are pretty much standard by now. I really don't have much but praise for this game. I do gotta mention one of the major gimmicks that this game is trying to push. You can put it in a 3D mode. Rad. It is too bad that there isn't any multiplayer mode. That would have made this an even better game. Rad Racer is tubular, man. Check it out.
Well, here we are again, at the end of the episode. Although, let me get this out of the way right now. This was not, and is not, meant to be a comprehensive review of all the good and bad games on the NES. Heck no, there's so many more of them. In fact, I was planning to talk about at least 5 other great games, and some awful ones too, on this list. But the point of this list isn't to tell you what you should or shouldn't buy. It was just to give you a general idea of what the NES is all about. And I think I did it rather well. Although, before I forget, there's still something I have to do.
Well, this is it. This is where you meet your end, punk. We won't be seeing you again.